Len?
Madam Chair, members of the council, I'd like to make the motion to have our legal department represent the social services in the subject case.
Okay, motion by Len. Second by Bing. All those in favor? Okay, motion carries unanimous. Thank you. Rhonda?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Council. I just wanted to say that there is an internal controversy in the prosecutor's office about whether we're conflicted out of this because we represent the tribal council and social services. And the individual is, it's an individual situation. We are not. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thanks, Dan. Okay, Martin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess it was last Thursday reported that Lake County is doing well as far as the COVID numbers. There was no report this week, probably due on Thursday. One point of interest is the Omicron variant has been detected in Gallatin County, I believe. 2 individuals that traveled outside the United States came back and have it. So it's in Montana, and you know, Gallatin County isn't that far away. So especially, you know, this holiday season, take precautions, rapid tests, you know, ventilation in your houses, you know, especially if you're going to have elderly there or immune compromised people, be cognizant of them, their health. You know, limit your gathering sizes if possible. You know, unvaccinated people probably should be wearing masks just because they're able to shed a lot more live COVID cells than an unvaccinated person. Vaccines are available, tribal health, public health, hospitals. I think you can get them at most pharmacies. Most of them were covered by insurance. So I know you don't have time before Christmas to be fully vaccinated, but you know, it's worth a shot. Thank you. Be safe out there, especially on the roads. Heard Lakes Corners is horrible, so slow down out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Okay, next up we have Scott Johnson. His information starts on page 2 in the packet. Good morning, Scott.
Hey, good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Council. Tribal Council. I came today to request the extension of a 5-year agreement that expires at the end of this year. It's for DJ&A for design and engineering and consulting work. They have several ongoing projects that haven't been completed yet that we'd like them to continue working on until the end of next year. Just a brief description of some of the things that they're working on is the Dixon home site construction projects. They did the Big Arm to Elmo path that wasn't awarded for a grant application, but they have the grant application ready, and it might take a few tweaks to get that back ready for the next cycle of federal funding. We have the South Arley, Finley Lakes roads. That's partially completed. Indian Avenue, we plan on doing some public information meetings and maybe bidding that in April or May in Elmo. And then we got 2 bridges, Rive Creek Bridge, the 3rd one up. It's the last one on the main road there. And then St. Mary's Lake Road Creek, that bridge there. That one is in 90% complete design, waiting on a little bit of right-of-way stuff. That's just some of the stuff they're working on, working on for us. And we're wanting to keep them on until December 31st, 2022 to extend this 5-year contract to finish up those items. And yeah, that's this agreement number 16-184. I'd like a modification number 13 approved today to extend the contract from December 31st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022.
Okay, Anita has a question.
Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Scott. I have a question on the Dixon Agency, the road program. I had understood it was going to be completed by, I thought it was 2021, but then they were waiting for some sewer and septic work to be completed or water project, and I think that is done.
Yep, you're right. That all is done, and we're ready to do some public meetings at Dixon for getting, I think we have 75% plans completed for that. So we're going to be looking to do some public information or public input meetings for that. And that Dixon Agency will be in 2 phases. That will be yeah, I think they got it broke out into 2 phases, so it'll be 2 construction seasons.
Just a follow-up. So if you need to come down in January, let me know and we'll plan a district meeting, and that way you can visit with the public there.
Yeah, that would be good.
We're having one on the 29th, but I think that's probably too fast, but I'd
Oh.
like an update on it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Scott? Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council, and thank you, Scott, for bringing that issue to us this morning. I'm just kind of curious, this kind of seems that we've been receiving a lot of these types of requests from these engineering and consulting firms, and I'm just kind of wanting to know if we put penalty clauses in these contracts when they cannot meet the objective dates.
Yeah, I think we would. I'm not sure if we have that right now, but I think it would be enforceable if it wasn't their fault. But I mean, if it was their fault, but right now it's like I said in the request, it was not the result of their performance for these ones.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if in the future, if there is a clause in our contracts that would do what you're thinking to penalize them or motivate them to complete things on time.
Well, I think it would just send a message to them that when they enter into contracts with the tribes, that we would like them to meet them dates, to prioritize our projects and get those completed, because the longer we have those projects out there, it's costing us money.
Mm-hmm.
And I just see this time and time again, and I think we just need to start addressing those within the contract, because I see forestry does those in their contracts, and I don't see why we can't do them in ours. But thank you, Scott.
Yep, thank you.
there a motion to entertain the modification request? Motion by Anita. Second by Mike. All those in favor? Opposed? Lynn? Abstain? I'm sorry, Carol, I didn't get your vote. Motion carries. Thank you, Scott. Okay. Next up, we have Ruth. Her information starts on page 30 in the packet.
Asquext,
Ms. Next.
Kisuk with them. Madam Chair and Tribal Council, last Tuesday, I participated in virtual consultation that IHS had hosted. It was regarding funding that was going to be awarded additionally under American Rescue Plan. Also, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act recently approved by Congress, and the proposed Build Back Better America. In all of those acts, there are amounts proposed for tribes. And so consultation was centered on those particular funds and the purposes for which they would be awarded. I then drafted comments and submitted to our applicable departments, including Tribal Health and Department of Human Resource Development and Salish Kootenai Housing Authority. I, as of this morning, have not received any feedback on those proposed comments. But in general, we are proposing that maximum flexibility be applied to these funds when awarded. In particular, the additional ARPA funds of $210 million to go to Indian Health Service. They were proposing specific uses of the funds that went to public health nursing and a couple of other areas that may not necessarily be our tribe's priorities. And so my comments go to that. In the IIJA, or the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, that is a significant amount of funding that has been identified for sanitation facilities construction of $3.5 billion, broken down in 5 years of $700 million per year. And our concerns would go to what is the reported sanitation deficiency system, or the SDS, as reported. We know from our Salish Kootenai Housing Authority's own report that 15 million is proposed or identified just to improve community water and sewer systems that currently exist. We don't have identification of the individual needs, like the very ones that you've recently been trying to resolve for individual homeowners that have a failed well or septic. So that comment also generated similar discussion in the virtual consultation by other tribes, expressing concern on whether there should be additional consultation. Finally, on the Build Back Better, which has not been approved, tribes are advocating there be some more consultation on the funding that would be identified. And in general, our tribe would advocate, along with other tribes, that funds not be made available on competitive basis. It adds administrative burden on both sides of that, both tribes and Indian Health Service. And it is not advantageous to tribes who are probably of greatest need for those funds. So if approved, Madam Chair, I would finalize the comments and submit for your signature. And the due date is Thursday, December 23rd.
Questions for Ruth? Go ahead, James.
Thank you. Ruth, just a question, are any of these funds pass through the state? Do any of them pass through the state? And the reason I ask that is we had Governor Gianforte make a comment that he wasn't going to accept some of the, whenever Build Back Better hopefully gets passed, with Joe Manchin now saying he's absolutely not. The governor of the state said he's not going to accept some of the funding. And I'm wondering in this, Ruth, if you've heard any comments to the fact that, you know, some of this passed through the state, and my point is that we need to have language in there that bypasses the state. And I know you're well aware of those in the past that we've got hung up with the state on those pass-throughs, but just a comment.
Madam Chair, yes, Councilman Steele, you're absolutely correct. Tribes in general advocate that there not be passed through any state. In Build Back Better, I confess I've not paid a great deal of attention to that because it's not been approved. But I can add that general comment along with the advocacy that there not be competitive basis for that. That seems to be the mechanism that states have gone with as well when they've received the pass-through. So good comment, and I welcome that.
I'll make a motion to send a letter to Elizabeth Fowler, Acting Deputy Director,
Okay, motion by Carol,
with
second by
those
Anita.
inclusion of those good comments.
All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ruth, for drafting those.
Thank you. Have a good weekend and a good holiday.
Thank you, you too. We have a few minutes until legal update. Carol, did you want to give your trip report?
Yes, I can, and I have something else too, Madam Chair, that I just remembered. So, yeah, the trip report, I'm gonna do it in writing, but there's a couple of highlights I wanted to talk about. One was that at the tribal leaders meeting at the tribal health subcommittee, we discussed a regional treatment center. And when I heard about that, I thought, you know what, Martin made some very strong comments when me and him were on the elders committee meeting for the Kootenai elders about effect of the tribal treasury for us to go it alone. And when I heard this word regional, I thought, wow, what an opportunity for tribes to go forward and not only right now, what we've approved is a resolution, which I haven't got yet, and I'm waiting to give that to Rick. But this resolution will direct the subcommittee to go forward, seek funding, and put the data together to go out and seek funding for a regional center. And I'm thinking, you know what, if Salish Kootenai, and Rick said there was money available for this, I'm not sure if it's ARA funding or whatever. If we pushed hard enough, there's a chance that, if we wanted to and offer up land, this facility could possibly be located here. I don't know, that's certainly a decision by all the tribes, but a lot of those tribes don't have the money, but they certainly need the treatment center. They need a place to send their people that is more tribally, traditionally, culturally effective for our people. And so I'm thinking, wow, there's just a great opportunity here for that to possibly come to fruition. And I want to thank Len for being on the Tribal Leaders Council. There is a lot of information that comes out of that meeting, and I was just kind of overwhelmed. That's why I feel like I need to write it down and get it to the council. There's also some national advisory committee boards that deal with health. And like you said, Madam Chair, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And even if you're not on the menu, you're just forgotten, your issues are forgotten. So I think it's important that we try to identify people who will sit on these, it's a list that I have in my packet, to
to sit on these federal advisory committees, and it's called the FACA. And they also talked about the committee Mike's been appointed to and some of the other things. And there is a thing happening at the Greater Yellowstone Coalition is getting ready for the 150th anniversary of Yellowstone. And I need to make sure preservation and the culture committees are well aware of that. So the input to bringing that next year's event together, it'll make sure it includes us as the, Aboriginal people of that territory. So, and then, let me see if there was a few others. We discussed broadband. And Dorothy Dupree is heading up the subcommittee. And she's kind of nationally renowned. She's been directors and of IHS in a number of regional areas. And then I think she was even acting national director. So having her at the table with the subcommittee has been critically important. She's also brought together a packet with our authorities, with things that we need to accomplish. Oh, the other main thing that we're going to accomplish on the subcommittee is moving forward our position on Medicaid expansion. And we feel that's going to be a big issue in the next legislature. So we're already gearing up for a position. And first of all, we need to get the positions of the tribes and see if we can come together and formulate something for all of us to stand on. So that's kind of a trip report in a nutshell, but I will certainly write that down, Madam Chair, and get that out to the group along with all the backup documentation. Okay, thank you. Now, there was one other issue, if that's okay, or if you want to move on, I can bring it up later.
Well, I just wanted to comment that the American Indian Health Leaders meeting that I attended 2 weeks ago in Great Falls, they talked about regional treatment centers in Great Falls and Billings, and the tribes all talked about, that's a great idea, but we also have needs locally, and we could probably fill, each one of the tribes said they could probably fill the beds, just with their own people. And so we talked about whatever funding people were going to seek, that it not be competitive with the tribe's own family-based, culturally relevant centers. So, and then the other thing that the tribal health directors there identified was the Medicaid expansion, that being a legislative priority for all. So yeah, I hope that we can continue to coordinate with the tribal leaders, and Dr. Fox was there on our behalf. So I think that's one continuity piece that we need to keep in mind. So,
Absolutely, thank you. Can I bring up the other one?
yeah, go ahead.
Well, Madam Chair, maybe I better just ask the council, a week and a half ago, I've been kind of watching on Facebook the comments on the payout for January 18th. And there seems to be a pretty good push. I think there was like 200 and some comments about paying out the full amount. And I don't want to put the council in a bad position, but I just think, with administration staff putting that out there, I think it really gave me kind of a message that people are in need right now and they could use the full amount. And so I would like the council to consider paying out the 2,000 and then no payment for the rest of the year. I know one of the arguments was to cut down on the cost of doing a second payment. But I really feel, just by the comments, I think it was overwhelming to me that there were people that would like to see the full amount in January and then leave it at that. But it's a council decision. And if you don't want to entertain it, I promised I would, I made a comment that I would bring it up because of the overwhelming amount. And I would like to see what council's thoughts were about this. And I would hope in the future, and maybe Rick did, when he came in, that he said, well, we could do a full payout, but I think this whole thing was actually decided last June or July or whatever on how we were gonna do this. But in the time frame that we've had from then till now, things kind of have changed a little bit. So that's why I said, you know, I'd go ahead and bring it up. And I wanted to do it after the election, not before, so. Any comments?
Thank you. Len?
Thank you. I just wanted to add to that, and thank you for bringing that up, Cheryl. And I also would like to commend our colleague, Big Matt, for bringing that idea up to get a payment down in January, because we all know January is the toughest time of the month for all of our members. And I support either way council goes, the large payout, or if they want to choose to continue to do what we're doing. But I just wanted to mention that because Bing, you need acknowledgement for doing that. I appreciate you doing that for the members.
Yeah, thank you. You know, definitely I support it. I think it's pretty, you know, we don't really see a lot of times what people are struggling with and going through. Having my family just gone through the struggle with COVID, it wasn't just a one-day thing. It took a couple months and 2 and 3 months, and still we're dealing with things from the battle with COVID that my family went through. Oftentimes, you know, we can not really see what people struggle with on a day-to-day basis, and, you know, to pay for gas, to pay for diapers, to pay for groceries and those kind of things. And, you know, they go to the bank and put the card in the ATM machine and it says you got $1 or minus. You know, so that's a real thing that happens every day. And we have more people dealing with that. And it's not because they're not working or they're not in all of that. It's a lot of them are working very hard and diligently. It's just the cost of things has gone up. And, you know, I think, and doesn't relate to the regular per capitas. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the COVID relief payment. I just wanted to make that clear. But I do think as a tribes that we need to think about, if as the funds increase and as we get a little more along, we need to really think about, it's been over 30 years since the regular per capita has been even raised or considered for an increase. And I think it's time to do that. And maybe in this year that this new council and you folks that'll be here can consider that. It's been a number of years. And so I think it's due to have an increase.
Martin?
I think that one thing that you gotta be very cognizant of is, yeah, people, I mean, this time of year is hard. That's why we did it in January. But also people with school age kids truly understand how much school clothes cost. And if you have multiple kids in a household, that's hard. And $400 per capita, and if they're minors, 200, doesn't stretch very far. And then we get into the whole, a lot of our kids, you know, grandkids, school age kids may not be enrolled. So parents are paying for their school clothes out of their per capitas that take money out of people's pockets. So I believe it was partially my idea to split it up. Those are the reasons why. Summer's hard, you know, we're giving this right before July. So I think that would be, you know, people say that money's always hard in July. I know for a fact that's true too. So, you know, it is a council decision, but, I'll just I just wanted to explain where I was coming from when I suggested we split it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bing?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members. Yeah, I brought this up because of our priority issue. That's why I brought this up. Nothing was happening with our priority issues that we had planned. Everything was just kind of on hold and nothing was being done with it. So I asked if we could make this payment to help with oil and propane during the winter months here. That's what I pretty much asked for. And like Martin said, thanks Martin for bringing that up with the per capita payments. You know, it's not much money, you know, $400 and $200 like he stated for the younger kids, you know, it don't buy very many tennis shoes or clothes, whatever, pants, whatever they need for school, you know, it doesn't buy that much. And that's why I just asked, you know, for the first half of the payment in January, the other payment in June, where they could maybe go ahead and buy a few clothes for their children. But like stated, you know, I did it because of the priority issue that we were working on. It kind of fell by the wayside there for a while, and we weren't receiving any word of where they were at with it. So that's why I brought it up. But you know, it's down. I'm just looking down the road for you know, for the kids for the school, and that's why I asked for half of it. You know, for in January here for them. You know, and I haven't had any complaints up our anyway about not paying it all out. You know, but you know, it's I guess it's just people that you know that may need it a lot more than I thought, you know, so I don't know, it's an issue, you know, that we should hash over a little bit before we decide to do this, you know, but anyway, and just wanted to kind of bring that up as if I did it because of the priority issue that we were planning on working on and never got it pushed through, and still it's not. Still up in the area, you know, where we're going with this. So that's a comment about it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bing. Anita?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank the rest of the council for bringing that up because I also seen, you know, some of the comments going on out there. And I agreed with Bing when Bing brought it in that, you know, even paying out half, that it would assist the people. Even in Missoula last week, I got a call on an individual's having problems paying for her oil and then trying to pay for her own wood and stuff like that. So people are definitely having it tough. And even on the news this morning, it talked about 1 in 3 families that are food insecure. And with the inflation that we've all felt with the 30% increase and everything. So I definitely understand where the individuals are coming from and would support whatever decision that the council makes. And I've heard other comments about the per capita, you know, hasn't been increased in many, many years. So I would entertain that idea that we talk as a council and see what we can do. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I like Bing's idea. Let's go ahead and have a little more discussion just amongst the council and see if there is further thoughts on whether we do a full payout. We've got time. I believe is all they have to do is change the number from 1 to 2. So we can decide that in a little later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, legal?
Morning, Madam Chair. So we have a number of updates today. The first one will be an open session, and Brian, if you're on. I believe it's on page 34 of the council packet.
Yes, that's right. Thanks, Dan. Good morning, Chairwoman. Good morning, Tribal Council. It may start actually on page 33, but I have a resolution for you for your consideration. There are two draft pieces of legislation, one of which you had considered in the last Congress. These pieces of legislation have been worked on by the Wilderness Society and the National Congress of American Indians. And one is called the American Indian Heritage Act. That would create a new kind of management designation for public lands within the Department of Interior and the Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, that would create tribal cultural areas. And that would result in a regimen where the federal agencies would consult more closely with tribal governments before making any management decisions for those areas. It also would allow for Indian self-determination contracting in those areas as well. The second bill is called the Advancing Tribal Parity in Public Land Management Act. And that bill would amend a number of the current federal land management acts to put tribal governments on par with state and local governments when it comes time for the federal government disposing of or conveying surplus property or granting rights of first refusal to state, local, or now tribal governments for any particular properties that they're interested in. And it's basically a technical bill that just inserts tribes alongside of state and local governments in those federal statutes. So I apologize. I had neglected to also include the actual bills or section by section summaries of those bills when I submitted this resolution. I believe Mike Derglo had just sent those to Jen. They may be available to you now, but if not, we can revisit this. I can get those to Jennifer and we can get those to you so you have more time to review them. Or if you would just like to ask questions, Mike Derglo's long worked with the Wilderness Society on a number of issues. He had a call with Wilderness Society staff to discuss this legislation a few weeks ago that I wasn't able to make. I have discussed them also with Paul Spittler of the Wilderness Society, and be happy to answer any questions if you do want to consider the resolution today. My recollection is that the past council had supported the prior version of the American Indian Heritage Act that I don't believe was actually introduced in the last Congress, but we had discussed it with you in draft form. And Jen just informed me that she did send you the actual bills by email, so you may have them available to you now. But if you have any questions, Mike and I can try to answer them today.
Any questions from council? This isn't one that I remember getting a summary from our Chris and George on, our consultants or our lobbyists in DC. But you said that you did send, oh, okay. Jennifer just sent those to council. So what are the wishes of council? Do you guys want to approve the resolution today? Do you want more time to read the bills?
email that Jen sent.
What time to review? Put it on the agenda for Tuesday?
When's this due, Madam Chair? When do we have to have this in by, or is there a date for when this is due?
Madam Chair, Councilmember Steele, there isn't an urgent deadline for this, so it would be no problem to do this
Yeah, I'd
next
request
week.
the review, if that's okay.
Okay, let's give us a chance to read both bills and we'll put it back on the agenda for next Tuesday.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Um,
Brian.
I'm sorry, did somebody else have something to?
Hey, Brian, do you have anything else for open session? Dan?
Yeah, just a quick update. Some of you may have seen in the newspaper that the opioid litigation settlement with Purdue Pharma was rejected by the federal judge. That's going to be appealed, but the upshot is we thought if that had been approved, then the settlement funding might have been somewhat imminent coming to us. It's not going to be imminent now. It's possible an appellate court could reinstate the settlement, but in any case, that's going to take time and they may not. So I can give you a fuller update down the road when there's been a little more development, but I did just want to address that. And if any council members have particular questions right now about that, I can either answer them in executive or if you want to flag them for me, I can make sure to address them in an update on another session. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, council members. So our remaining items will